to the WisMissus podcast, reading, writing, and roaming around Wisconsin, the Midwest, and beyond. I'm Valerie Biel, and I'm here with my co-host TK Sheffield. I'm an award-winning author. So is she. I'm a book marketing pro. You know an awful lot about book marketing, our topic of the day. But tell us a little bit about your books.
Thank you, Valerie. It's wonderful to see you again. Happy summer. I know you've been very busy and
You
congrats on
too.
everything you've been up to. Yes, my name is TK Sheffield. I write stories for readers to laugh and escape. And I write the Backyard Model Mysteries, which are The Devil Wears Prada meets a Wisconsin Supper Club. And I am thrilled to say that the third book in the series, Model Ghost, was won a silver medal in humor from the International Book Publishers Association. And it also was up for the comedy award for Killer Nashville, which I just returned from. It did not win, but Lois Winston, who did, was charming and wonderful and has an amazing book journey story, outstanding story, filled with difficulty. And she stuck with it and now has, won awards and written this multiple books. And so congrats to her. And it was just a lovely, lovely event.
I'm so glad. And I wish I could have been. At least they live streamed it. So I
Yes.
was watching and I was like trying to figure out where they were in the awards because I tuned in a little
Yes.
late, you know.
Yes.
And being a finalist, so it was Beyond the Cemetery Gate. Um,
Yes.
Let me pull that out. That was this one that was the finalist for the Silver Fellshian. I too did not win, although I have to say, being a finalist for that award, which is an industry award for mystery, thriller, suspense, really matters. Um,
Right.
it's being acknowledged in a way that is important if you're going to write in this genre and have that kind of
Right.
that kind of just an honor bestowed on you. It feels very good to be acknowledged that way.
It feels wonderful. And as Clay Stafford said during the award ceremony, and if you're interested in going to a conference and you're perhaps a new writer, you have a debut book, or you've just got a manuscript, I highly recommend something like Killer Nashville. It's so welcoming and they do everything they can to bring you in and let you learn and give you opportunities. They had a moment where they recognized debut authors. They had places where you can practice pitch. They had agent pitches. They had so much going on. The booklet, just the whole conference booklet is a half inch thick.
Oh,
You
that's so
know,
nice. That's so nice.
yes. And
Yes.
it's beautifully organized and it's at a nice hotel, not too expensive, not over the top. And friendly, welcoming atmosphere. So it's Killer Nashville. If you're looking for an event, I highly recommend. Wisconsin Writers Association has something on a smaller scale, but very similar, very welcoming and lots of opportunities. And I know you're going to be there, Val.
Yes,
So
I will be. So that's we want to talk about our roaming stuff. So you just
yes,
went to Killer Nashville. I will be headed. We're recording this in the last week of August. This is a September podcast for everybody who's going to be watching this in September. Once you see this, I will have just come back from BoucherCon, which is in New
yeah,
Orleans this year. And because my mystery, this novel came out after the conference last year, I get to be at the debut author breakfast this year, which is fun.
nice.
But I'm a little nervous about it. I hopefully it will have gone well by the time people are watching this. It will be a memory at that point for me. But Michael Connolly and Lee Child host that debut author breakfast.
Oh, how nice.
You get the mic and you get a minute to do your like book pitch. So that's a little nerve-wracking. And then, yeah, I mean, you do your best with it. But yeah, I've not been to Killer Nashville. That is one that I will go to at some point. Clay Stafford, right?
Yes.
Was over at BoucherCon because a year ago it was in Nashville, back to back almost with the Killer Nashville conference, and I got to meet him, and he's so charming and engaging and just so smart
Yes.
about the
Yes.
industry. So I agree with you that that one is definitely on my list, and I wish I could have gone this year, but I was coming off of Irish Fest here,
Right.
like 3 days of Irish Fest for the other books I write. And that was insanity. I mean, in a good way. I don't mean it in a bad way. So
Right.
this is the fourth
Oh,
book.
it looks
So
lovely. Oh, I love your cover.
they'll have you back to Irish Fest when you get a new title, when you have something new out. And I'd been there a couple times, but this was a new release. So I've been just crazy just in like promo mode after getting this thing written so quickly and then edited quickly and ready for Irish Fest that I just have been so relieved in the last say 10 days or
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Just to be like, oh, maybe I do have time to go outside and pull some weeds in my jungle of a yard,
Yes.
or just to breathe a little bit. And you probably had a busy summer too. I know you've been doing things around your house and probably getting up north a little bit. Yeah.
Went up north. Yes. The best place to find me in the summer is on a pontoon boat on a Wisconsin lake. My time was short this year, so I was very upset about that. However, I have a screwball comedy coming out in February, and so I was diligently working on that and polishing it and getting it to the editor and making sure that it is ready for launch. And I just got 2 reviews back on it,
Oh, good.
and they were fortunately 5-star with wonderful comments. So I feel like I'm on a very good track with that. So the summer sacrifice was worth it.
Is that what we're calling it? Summer sacrifice? Yeah,
Yes.
we both did kind of sacrifice our summer
Yes.
to writing projects or home projects or the combination of both.
Yes.
So that's what you've been writing. I haven't really been writing right now. I do know where I'm headed with the next books in this series.
Oh, great.
I'm excited about that. But what I
Great.
should be doing is thinking about book two in this series. So I have these three books in mind, right? Because I've got two more in that Circle of Nine, the Irish mythology inspired series. But it's time to start thinking about that mystery plotting again
Yep.
for book two. I think, I mean, I'm going to get through the next conference and a few travel things for our charity, but then I've got to hit the ground running with the next writing project. Probably it'll be November before I get to that in earnest, you know.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I'm excited. So you'll have a February launch, right?
I
Within
will
the
have a February, yes, and it's going to be a fun one, you guys. This one's, it's a throwback screwball comedy. Remember His Girl Friday and the Philadelphia Story and those old classic
I
comedies
love
that are
them.
just kind of, they're screwball farce kind of comedies. And that's what this one turned out to be. And I am just thrilled with the way it turned out because it's just pure fun.
Well, and I love that. And I need books that make me laugh. I'm reading one right now by Trisha O'Malley, is set in Scotland and it's fantastical, but the banter is so witty that I find
There
myself
you go.
chuckling as I'm reading and also trying not to wake my husband up as I'm like chuckling at this witty banter. But yeah, your books always make me laugh. They just always they're happy reads, right?
Yeah.
There's always, I mean, there's things that happen that aren't great in them,
Yeah.
right? Because there's
Yeah.
also some tension and there's a
There's
plot.
danger and conflict in them.
Yeah.
Even in a romantic comedy, you have danger and conflict, right? But one of the reviewers' comments was, I didn't want to read it too quickly because I didn't want it to end.
Oh, that is a
I know,
sweet review. Oh.
right? And this is an anonymous reviewer. I don't know this person. This is purely, their own thoughts. And so I was just thrilled to hear that.
Back to these awards, we should acknowledge some of the people that were that we know, part of Blackbird writers or writers that we know that were up for these awards, particularly the Silver Falchion.
Mhm.
So John Dodakis, one of our fellow Blackbird writers, won
Yes.
for Enemies Domestic, and I'd have to check and see what category. Maybe you have it handy. What category John won in?
Not sure.
That's a wonderful story. I really love this series. It's the latest in the series that he's writing, but you can pick his books up out of order in that series and enjoy them. So don't
Yeah.
don't be
Yeah.
don't be worried about grabbing the most recent one that's the award winner. Uh,
Sarah Lynn Richard.
Sarah
Sarah
Lynn
Lynn
Richard, yes,
Richard.
for
Yes.
Best
Murder Outside the
Investigator.
Box. Best
Yes,
investigator. Yeah.
and that was well deserved. I was happy
Hmm.
to see her name. And then not a Blackbird writer, but a fellow Sisters in Crime member, Maggie Smith, won for her book Blind Spot, right?
Oh, you know what? She did.
She
Yes.
did. She did. So we're in good company here in either the Blackbirds or our fellow writers in Wisconsin and the Sisters in Crime chapter. I was sad I didn't win, but then I was like so happy for everybody else. And
I
you're just
know.
like, when you know people, there's a lot of camaraderie, right? I mean,
There's that's the nice thing that in general about the writing community is that, especially that I sensed at Killer Nashville, everybody's happy for everybody.
yep.
For example, like I said, the winner of my category, the best comedy, Sorry Not Sorry by Lois Winston.
Yes.
And she was one of the presentation speakers
Oh,
um,
good.
at the awards dinner. She won, and then she came on later to talk, and she discussed her writing journey. 10 years of difficulty and rejection and publisher going under. And you almost couldn't believe it because every twist got worse and worse for her. And she just stuck with it. She stuck with it. And now she's indie, but she's got a wonderful following. She's winning awards with her series. Really a testament to the perseverance you need in this business. And then I have to mention one more. Oh,
Who did?
Best Cozy, Lori Robbins.
Oh, Lori Robbins, and that was
Study
best
Guide for Murder. She's
best
fabulous and
cozy.
she won and she's delightful and I was thrilled for her. Mm.
Well, and these are nice opportunities to meet authors. This last time, 2 weekends ago, when I was at Irish Fest, I was all about meeting readers. I mean, there were
Mm.
other authors there, right? And you
Right,
make friends with them because you're there for 3 days,
right,
hanging out with them. So that's always a delight. I cannot wait really for BoucherCon because it'll be hanging out with the writers again
right,
and fans too. But um, yeah, so that's we're entering busy season for some of that stuff,
right,
especially as we head toward the Wisconsin Writers Association the first week of October here in Wisconsin.
right.
And we're both busy teaching at that event.
Yes.
So that's kind of our roaming. We talked about our writing. What have you been reading that you've been enjoying?
What have I been reading? You know what? I have to say, I usually have it set up right next to my desk here. Oh, I hold on. This was from a gal that I met her actually on TikTok, and she has this wonderful, she writes a story about her mother,
Mhm.
um, Tammy Bowden. Her mother's, the book is Waltrow, and it's about her mother raised in, growing up in Nazi Germany. Well, I met her at
Oh,
Lakefly, and then she wrote a different book that's an older one, and she gave it to me, A Perennial Life, Finding Purpose in Every Season.
oh, I think you showed
And
me that cover once, and
Tammy
I
Borden,
hadn't
and
read it yet.
right,
Yeah.
and I've been busy this summer, so I just haven't been, you know,
Mhm.
it's something you can pick up and read a chapter. And it's just something that I am, you like I can read it on the plane back and forth, just a chapter here and there. And it's just inspiring and lovely and calming. And I don't know for sure, but I think she might re-release this because it's an older title. But it's just something you read for inspiration and calmness of mind because I've been writing so much and it was so busy. I needed something that brought peace. I didn't need a thriller. I didn't need something that was going to be high tension. I needed something quiet and peaceful.
I probably should have taken a page out of your book with that. So no, instead, because I needed to catch up with books for Books and Beer because
Yes.
and tend to be reading a lot of thrillers and suspense. So I just finished The Killer's Terms by Kevin Klusner. I think I'm saying it
Oh,
right.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's out of Milwaukee. And this is the third book in his Cole Hipsch,
Mm-hmm.
Huebsch, FBI thrillers. And he also does a wonderful job with making them standalones. So you can pick up the third book, you get the backstory enough. I mean, I'm going to go back now and read the first two because I want to see how everybody got to book three exactly. Um, really good. And if you are from Wisconsin or know Milwaukee well, he puts so many places in Milwaukee, like real places, into his stories that it's a delight because you're like, oh,
Nice.
I've eaten there. Oh, I've gone and had a beer there, or like whatever.
Nice. And he
Um,
does really well with those. I believe he's won a number of awards, right?
Yes, he has.
Yes.
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 And we just had a great conversation. But I had read it earlier and then I reread it because I like to read right close to the conversation that I'm facilitating for Books and Beer. So that's mainly what I've been reading lately. And then just for fun, I'm reading this Trisha O'Malley book that I mentioned that's making me laugh.
Right.
But I've always got a big pile and I came home from Irish Fest with more books to read. How it works. You sell a bunch and you buy a
And
bunch.
you buy a bunch.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I'm happy to be back doing this podcast. We take our hiatus in the summer. We needed it. We had a lot to accomplish this summer,
Right.
but I'm glad to be back. And we're picking up our series for independent publishing, walking people through all the steps of it. And we're now kind of to that marketing launch phase with the
Yes.
first part. So this is kind of, I guess we're calling this book marketing part one, or the launch phase of your book
Right.
marketing. And we'll do a second one that's going to dive more into advertising and some of the more long-term things that you can do to market your book after it's out. But today we are going to jump into all that pre-launch stuff and give you some checklists and some just ideas of how we approach it ourselves and also the things that we like, the things that we like to do. There's some things that are better for some books versus others. So this isn't one of those things you got to follow every single thing we're saying. And it's truly certain books of mine. I guess we can just jump right in. I mean, I was going to jump in with the housekeeping aspect of things.
Hmm.
We may have covered this a little bit earlier in the year, but when you are at the point where you have your book cover, your book description, maybe it's up, it actually probably needs to be for some of these things up for pre-sale on Amazon as a Kindle book.
Hmm.
You got to then make sure you do your housekeeping with your website, make sure you got the book up there with that first link. You need to update all your social media. Maybe you have your book covers in the header on your social media, or maybe it's just in your bio, but either way, you've got to do that. What else? BookBub, grab.
BookBub, Goodreads, Author Central. If
Yep.
you're on any other site, your Amazon profile, definitely. I see so many Amazon profiles. People don't make use, it's two
Mhm.
lines, right? Update that thing, as much as you can,
Oh,
as much as
it's
they'll
free
allow.
space. It's free space. So if
Yes.
you are an author, so say you're a new author watching us, you have if you have not claimed your Author Central account,
Hmm.
go do it now. And I will link to the spot, like a page that shows you where to start, for instance, if you're at
Yep.
the beginning of your journey. But that's that biography. If you click on an author's name inside Amazon and it's hyperlinked, you go over to a page that's got a photo, a bio, but it's got all the books listed that that author
Right.
has. And there's other things you can add in there. There's some, other stuff, but it's free. It's free real estate. Use
Right.
it.
And now with AI changing the way search is working,
Mhm.
right? SEO
Mhm.
is different now. That's like doesn't almost exist. You know, AI is going to go read your website, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
different now. So, if you've got a Pinterest, if you've got, Instagram, if you've got any Facebook, make sure that you're putting in your new title and making sure that all that is fresh.
Right. And it's in this stuff, I got to
Mm.
tell you, I mean, I can probably devote one day just to this stuff. So
Yes,
the minute the Kindle pre-sale link is available, then you can go link in Goodreads, then you can go link to it in BookBub and Author Central, and then you actually have the info also to, put everywhere else, like you're saying, the social media and
right,
whatever. And
right.
it's annoying, this housekeeping, but you got to do it. You got to
You
do
have
it.
to do it, and but once you do it, once you have your spreadsheet, there's your map, right?
Yes.
Once you take the time to develop your spreadsheet, and I know you have one, and I have one,
So many
you know,
spreadsheets. So
so
many
many, but it
spreadsheets.
keeps you organized. It really, really, really is worth it. So just the more, I'm convinced that the successful people, it's not necessarily the widget like a book or whatever. It's how organized you are.
I think sometimes it is because I get very disappointed, and I know that life happens, and you might be
Yeah,
ready to put a book out and then maybe something happens where you're now a caregiver that you didn't expect to be. Maybe you get sick, temporarily, hopefully, or whatever, but you've got things that just don't get done. And
right, right,
and sometimes too, if you don't have that list on the spreadsheet, it's hard to sit down at your computer if you've had some, discombobulating days to think, what do I do next? What do I do
right,
next?
right. And
So,
the nice thing about, I'm not an advocate for using AI to write books at all. However, in terms of tasks, you can ask it, just give it a prompt, give it a succinct prompt. I'm an author with a debut novel and I need to know websites where I can promote my book or give it a tight prompt and let
yep.
it do some of the work, you
Well, it
know?
becomes a very powerful search engine then.
Right,
I am less keen on the Google AI summary at the top of the
yeah,
Google results. So, I mean, I know that it's a really tenuous relationship that creative people have with AI, but I do think there's applications that can
right,
help you, especially with research, because
right,
it's faster on the research. Now, you gotta double check all of it. And does it, and
right.
is it perfect? Surely not. Surely not. But it's going to give you some jumping off points for things like that for research that
For
give.
an overwhelmed brain, which
Mhm.
let's face it, book marketing is you're taking a bite of the elephant,
Ugh.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I've never used Chat GPT, but from what I understand, I don't know what is the top AI search. I have no idea. But you know, you could write a tight prompt and see what it gives you in terms of, for example, book review services, right? So
Sure.
we have book review,
I would be,
you know,
I would
we
be
have
curious.
NetGalley, we've got NetGalley, we've got Goodreads. So those are the two everybody goes to.
Mhm.
But there are other ones out there. And so you can do a search physically on your own. If you like, go use Google and see what happens, or whatever search engine you use, and then compare it with whatever perhaps AI prompt you want to give.
Right.
You don't have to, I'm just saying it's a way to cross-check what you're getting.
That's right. And then you start popping that stuff into a usable form, like in a
Right.
spreadsheet. Now, maybe they're not going to all be for use. We did a pretty in-depth podcast on reviews and the review strategy back in April. But at this point, this is at the point where you really need to engage that strategy that we talked about.
Right.
So, NetGalley, are you going to pay for that service? How are you approaching other authors or readers to give you reviews in advance with your advanced reader copies? Are you going to sign up on sites like Book Sprout or Hidden Gems? Some of those now have some
Book
free
Sirens, Book
Book
Sprout, Hidden
Sirens.
Gems.
Yeah, so check these out. Some will work really, really great to help deliver your arcs to readers who know that to get these free arcs, they need to then pay it back with the review.
Right.
And you don't get 100% of the people doing that, but it's still things you need to check out. You need to at least be aware of it to see if it'd be a good fit for you.
Right. And if you do choose NetGalley, just be aware from my personal experience, the NetGalley reviewers are the most critical. And not that there's anything wrong with that. And from their point of view, they're being honest about the books they're receiving.
Yes,
So just take that into consideration.
I think so. Yep.
Don't stress, just take it into consideration when you submit and use it as a learning experience.
I agree. I agree. And I think too, that's also Goodreads. The reviewers that do post to Goodreads tend to be more critical.
Yes.
They are the core, hardcore readers versus people who maybe are on Amazon. My Goodreads average is almost always lower
Right.
than my Amazon review average. And
Yes.
it's just the nature of those sites. And a
Right.
lot of those NetGalley folks, that's where they choose over on Goodreads.
And if you're on there and you're getting above fours, you're consistently between fours and fives, you're doing well.
Oh yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. For sure. Yes, I
Yes.
totally agree. Um, I think it's an interesting, thing where people get disheartened, a little too quickly with that. But you're gonna get reviews that aren't all fours and fives. You get a few threes, whatever. I mean, there's always gonna be some stinkers in the bunch. You just
Yep.
need to get enough reviews, and if you've done your due diligence with your book, you're gonna
Yes.
average out to the
Because
right.
I always think, oh, they must be Chicago Bear fans. The only thing I really take aim at in my book, besides the bad guy, bad guy or girl, is
Well,
gonna be Chicago Bear fans.
we're pretty safe doing that in environments in Wisconsin to take shots
Yes.
at that. So for all of you Illinois fans of our podcast, yeah, like uh
Take it out on me, not Val.
yeah, I know, no, yeah, don't take it out on me. I didn't say that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. This is all in good fun.
Yes.
Just all in good fun. So okay, so you've got your review stuff going because we already taught you that back in April and you covered those bases. You've done all your housekeeping, everything looks pretty, your website's updated. Then you got to think about some other outreach. Now, I don't do this extensively for every book, but media outreach.
Right. If you have things like an award,
Mhm.
your book got a pre-award or something, you submitted a manuscript and it got an award and now the book is coming out, you can use that. You can say, look, this manuscript is coming out, it won this award at this time. Make it relevant or say it takes place. For example, Kevin Klusner, his books take place in Milwaukee. Well,
Right.
submit to the Milwaukee Press and say, look, I've got another book out that takes place in this location. So, do the work for the journalist. You don't just want to go here, journalists, figure out the connection, spell out the connection in the press release. So why the journalist would want to know about this book.
That's right. That's your hook.
Right, exactly.
Figure out your hook. So for someone like Kevin, or I mean, you write in Wisconsin too, or you get an award. I know he's been on the Morning Blend for his books with his books.
Which makes total sense. If his books take place in Milwaukee, the Morning Blend would want to have him, I would think. So
Exactly.
it's a symbiotic relationship there. And so you figure out when you're writing these press releases, and they're going to be maybe different if you're submitting to, a different place.
That's right.
different city or something. If you wrote a book that took place in Milwaukee, and then all of a sudden the next time it takes place in Minneapolis, there's two different press releases there, two different angles, and you want to make sure that's in your work, in your copy that you submit, the hook you write. So
That's right. And so you might have one base press release, but that will be able to be modified
right,
for the different markets and for the different reasons. Also, I always tell people, say you're making your list of places that you want to send this out to. Look at your subject. If you so we know someone who writes books that are horse themed books for younger readers. So if you have a tight theme like that, there are a ton of publications for people who ride horses, love
right,
horses, right? So that's just one example. Also, don't forget your alumni publications. Wherever you graduated from, circle back with the info to them. You might get popped into the UW-Madison Alumni Magazine or all these little places where you might pick up some other sales and you don't know the connections that you might make
right,
with that. So media kit, my media kit always includes that press release. Um, I always try to put an excerpt into my media kit if somebody wants to just check out the first chapter. That's usually fine for like a PDF sample. My bio's in there, even though there's a mini bio in the press release. Your picture, the book cover image, the book description, of course, is in there as well. And you're going to want a book information sheet. Now, that book information sheet is useful for reaching out to libraries, bookstores, any speaking engagements. It can also be modified for use as a podcast guest request kind of sheet to show what you're willing to talk about. There's modifications that need to take place, but it includes those things I talked about. It includes the book cover, the book description, all the technical information, the ISBNs, the price, where is it for sale, where can people order it. Usually there's a little bit of space for a few endorsements, few review quotes, and then a little bio and maybe your photo if there's space. I also, once you progress through that whole review process, you're going to have more reviews. You might have a second sheet that's just reviews. That's
right. And are these downloadable on your website?
Yes. Put them on as PDFs or JPEGs or whatever they are for file format. And then you can use links to them. So if you're going to send an email out, you don't like bog it down with attachments that sometimes get filtered out
Right.
from news reporters or anybody in the news industry. They might have a filter with too many attachments. Yeah, so use links. Put it on your website.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Did I miss anything in a media kit? You know your media kits really, really well. Is
No,
that
I think that's a, it's fabulous. And what's so great about it is you can change it yourself. And to me, there's never been a better time to be an indie author. I know people want to get the traditional deal, good for, fabulous, try it, do it, try your heart out. It's not the end of the world if you don't get there, right? You can take control of your writing career and become an indie author and do things like what Val just described. You can have a great website, you can have your media kit ready to go because it gives you so much control over your writing career. I mean, it really, really does. And the more I learned at Killer Nashville, the more I believe that there's never been a better time to be indie, but just be smart about it. Like something like a media kit and having a great website.
Yeah, it's not a shortcut way that keeps you from having to do certain things. And in fact, of course, if you don't have a publisher taking on some of the tasks, you will be doing all these tasks.
Even if you have a publisher,
Yeah, even
especially even a mid-sized to small, you're going to be doing this.
so you need to know about it. And if there's a reason that you're going to bypass one of the things we're talking about, you have to have a very good reason to not be doing it.
Right,
And if you're writing nonfiction, then this stuff's even more essential, right?
right,
Because you've got perhaps even more places that are going to want to know about your story, your book, or I shouldn't say story, but your book that has information for people in a certain topic or in
right,
a certain interest area that's very helpful.
right,
Um, the pros of indie publishing are going to be very, very obvious when we move on to the second part of this discussion, which is the advertising discussion,
right,
because of the return on investment and earning more money in royalties.
right,
So that is, yeah, it'll be obvious there when we start talking, maybe some more nitty gritty on numbers there. The other thing too, I mentioned the podcasts or guest blogging or linking up with people that you have followed, like Instagram or Facebook, people that have good followings. Don't hesitate to reach out. I do find that often when I talk with new authors, they feel reticent to promote their own work. And you shouldn't. If you've done your due diligence, like with you, when you say like with the hook, your value added to those platforms. And it is, it's leveraging the networks that other people have, whether it is a magazine or somebody's got a really good following for a podcast, or they have a lot of followers for their blog. If you link up with them and you are a good fit, then it's wonderful to, be partners. Um,
Right.
and it takes a little time to research this stuff, to know
Right.
which podcast to approach, which
And
bloggers like your stuff.
the what, and which is everything you should be doing, but make sure you're putting yourself in that other person's place and also the reader's place. So
Hmm.
in other words, you're not just coming into it like buy my book. Okay.
Right,
What is it about you and your energy and your book that's good for somebody else, and how can you reciprocate?
right.
Because that to me is the balance, right? When you just stand there and talk about your book, and this action happened, and then the character went here, and then the character went here, and I wrote it because of this, and you dominate the conversation for 20 minutes or so when you're standing there talking to someone, rethink it.
Please rethink it. So here's what the approach might be. So say you research a bunch of podcasts, maybe you write mysteries or true crime if it's nonfiction, or whatever. You make the case because you've done your research. Hi, podcast host. I see that you have had a series about XYZ.
Yes.
My book fits into the why of your XYZ, and I would love to talk more about this in a future, you know what I mean? Make sure they understand you've done your research and due diligence. You don't just like
Yeah,
blanket send
talk
stuff
about
out.
me and buy my book. My tagline, I write books for readers who want to laugh and escape. So it's my reader is in my tagline. I
Yes.
seek out readers who want to laugh. They don't want to deal with politics and bad language and sex on the page. They want a book that's an escapist read that's going to make them laugh, is set in a fun place, and with some silly events that are going to entertain them.
Right.
So my reader is in my tagline. I'm trying to think about how I can serve them. So if you come to it with sort of a not a, you're not a doormat. I'm not saying that, but you're serving people with your book,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right? So how are you serving the podcast host, the blog host, and your reader? If you keep
Right.
that in mind, I think you'll have better success.
Exactly, because all these people you're talking to have an audience that they need to satisfy. They
Right.
have a relationship with their audience. They have sort of a promise, really,
Right.
with their audience, that they will deliver content worthy of the topic that they've decided to focus on.
Exactly.
So you need to know what their audience is. You need to know what they typically present to their audience, whether it's even just social media, like people with big Facebook followings, that do lots of reviews, or Instagram bloggers, and these podcast hosts. And some people that are podcast hosts do all those other things too,
Right.
right? And they all feed into the same kind of topic zone, same
Right.
same type of focus. A lot of this is time consuming. I'm not going to lie. Like, you want to do your own, podcast research. There's a lot of platforms out there that are very helpful.
Right.
I use Listen Notes.
Oh,
Listen,
nice.
it's not free. You have to, but you can buy a 2-day pass. And I often do buy a 2-day pass for when I'm researching for clients, where I can go in, and then it lets you search by topic, but it also then gives you the contact information, because sometimes that's the hard thing to find, is the email to
Yes.
send your potential request to be a guest on someone's podcast. Sometimes those things are very hard to find. The
Right. And sometimes you won't get a response. You'll submit your
Sometimes.
information, you'll do everything they tell you to do, and you won't hear anything back. It's just everybody's busy, and move on to the next one. Don't
That's
take
right.
it personally.
Don't take it personally. And, if you've got something that's sort of evergreen, a topic that isn't going to age, out kind of, in terms of time, you could circle back and
Right.
do a little nudge,
Right.
whatever. I've done that with reporters. They are on vacation sometimes,
Right.
circle back and say, oh, and then, revise, maybe if you had something timely in your original request, see if you can revise it so it's up to date. Um, so it's kind of a rinse and repeat kind of thing, and this is where the spreadsheets come in again. You keep your podcast list, you keep your media contact lists, you keep the list of bloggers. And this is the stuff that you should be acquiring over time.
Right.
You like a certain kind of blog that you read every week, and you know that you've now written a book that would be a good fit for a guest blog. If you've been engaging with that blogger, they're going to remember your name. I guarantee it, if you're a commenter on someone's blog and then I get an email and I've seen that you've commented, I will remember who you are. And I will be that much more likely to want to book you for a guest blog because I know that you are value added to the whole social media experience or online experience that I'm,
Right.
putting forth for my followers, for my readers.
Right.
Not every book is going to get a zillion podcast guest spots. There's going to be some good fits. There'll be a few good fits for almost every title. I can
Right.
guarantee that.
Exactly. You don't need them all, but a few good fits makes
Yep.
sense.
And then the other thing I want to talk about is like speaking engagements that are offline, like the real person in person type events, which I feel like we focus so much on the internet or online experiences. Sometimes you've done a lot of bookstore events, indie bookstore events.
Bookstore, yes, and these I think are, besides my podcast with you, Val, these are my favorites because, I'm so blessed that I have a number of indie bookstores near me and they're fabulous. And so, reaching out to them, and if you're going to do this, if you're going to reach out to your local library, if you're going to reach out to indie bookstores near you, make sure you get on their newsletter, sign up for their newsletter, buy books from them, go visit your library, support what they're doing first before you ask for something, right?
Yes. Yes. Ugh.
Yes. Make sure you're supporting them in your way. Follow them on social, comment, do something to show you're engaged and you want, again, the reciprocal relationship.
Mhm.
And then reach out, support them, take a picture. It's so simple, take a picture of your local indie bookstore, put it on your social media and say, hey, have you shopped here? When you're holding a book event there, buy a gift card to the indie bookstore and give it away as a
Yeah.
freebie for the event. Buy one of
You
their book
always
bags.
you always do that, and people love it. And it is the perfect little raffle prize because you're
Yeah.
there.
Doesn't have to be a lot of money. If it's $10, it's $10. It's still something that shows you're supporting the group and your readers and the store.
Well, and I like to share, and I know you do this too. I share the events of indie bookstores with my audience, even if I'm not the author at that
Right.
event.
It's so
Because
simple on your Instagram stories. Just click, share it, put in the location, and it's something simple to do that spreads the word.
and definitely the people at that store, that location they will see that you've done that,
Right.
and it matters. And it's all just paying it forward if you've got just
Right.
a couple minutes just to do that. Have you done a lot of library events, or have you mostly doing bookstore events these days?
Mostly bookstore, but I'm so fortunate. I've had a couple libraries now because I was doing bookstore events, right?
Ah,
Now the libraries are reaching out to me.
that's nice.
So yes, so I'll be doing I've got at least 3 lined up for this fall. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully be doing more. It's just a matter of time. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time. And because you can really, your schedule, once you get going and you get traction, your schedule fills up really
It
fast.
does, and you gotta leave some time for, like, breathers, like, you don't wanna be
Yeah.
busy every single weekend,
No, I can't do that, but
No, I burn out. I
yeah.
mean, I maybe used to be able to do that, but now at my age, I'm like, "Okay, I know my limitations."
Yeah.
I mean, that Irish Fest, 3 days, like, I was just a zombie come
Yeah.
Monday. I mean, I did a few things, but I just puttered around the house, like, I wasn't gonna touch anything that was important on that Monday 'cause I was a
Yes.
little nervous. I
I
was gonna, like,
I
maybe,
understand.
like, screw something up. So, what else? If you write in the children's market, school visits,
Yep.
that's also a possibility. I also do some teaching. I do things that aren't always related to my book. They are related to the writing process. Sometimes I do workshops about writing or about independent publishing. And my books are off to the side, and I show them to people. And sometimes I get sales on those, but my primary reason for being at that community event or at the library is the programming that's being
Right.
provided. So think about that too, in terms of value added, and you can get paid for those events. That's not book selling, it's not book marketing necessarily, but it's things you learned along the way that are also valuable, like commodities, if you will, for earning money.
For earning money, and I'll tell you, at Killer Nashville, for example, we had 3 days of panels, a lot of them craft related, you
Mhm.
know. writing endings. How do you fix the messy middle? Writing great beginnings. Those craft related panels were soaked up, packed rooms. People really want to know craft ideas. So if you have that skill, if you have a specific skill related to writing, like I teach on writing log lines and short
Yeah.
descriptions, you teach on marketing.
Yes.
If you can bring that as well, you can really, for example, you can go to the local library and offer a class in that. And again, it's a way to build readerships and gain trust in your audience without selling them something, right? You're teaching them a skill in this sense. So
Right.
you've
And
got
those
it. And
people,
we all have that, right? Every writer's good at some aspect of the book process.
right. And I often with my clients will say, can you make a list of all the things that you feel you're an expert on now?
Great.
And now, like, if I wanted to talk about something like, Celtic mythology, that's something that I've become an expert on because that was part of my book research. So it could be over in that realm, right?
Right.
There's other people we know, like Carl Von Drow,
Hmm.
who is a member of Blackbird Writers. He has a banking background. Now,
Yes.
he can talk about that in terms of like international, like money laundering or different things that he
Right.
learned about that he was part of like his career. Not that he was a money launderer. I should kind
No,
of
no, Carl,
no,
we're
but
not saying that.
just like, the industry, right? So
Well,
there's
and at Killer Nashville, the number of retired FBI agents and CIA and bankers and lawyers, it was like, it was all, you could have had a separate conference just for them. And everybody soaked up. We had a number of screenwriters too, and everybody soaked up their words because they were on these panels about financial crimes or something like that. And,
well,
these are insiders discussing what they'd seen, and it was,
right.
they were really something. I'll just put it that way.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you want to get it right. So if you're coming to your plot, you're plotting, right?
Yes,
For whatever story you've now dreamt up in your mind, you don't want to make a mistake in terms of the way like international, monetary policy works or
right.
something. So it's good to meet these people too at conferences because then if you do have a question, you can say,
Yes,
"Hey, I was in your session at Killer Nashville, and now my plot is sort of this. Is this like logical or is this accurate?"
yes,
Oh,
exactly.
that's funny. Yeah. But so I always say to people, don't think beyond your book. Think beyond the actual book sale, book talk. What else do you know? What is interesting about what you've learned along the way that can be helpful and also potentially lucrative or, monetizing it. Uh,
Right.
so value added, value added. We can't forget social media posts, like just having a little bit of a schedule in mind about putting information out as you lead up to launch day about your book. And I have these fall into different categories when I'm teaching how to do this. And see if you follow these too. I think you do because I obviously follow you on social media. But you talk about the writing process and how like we're getting close. I'm excited. Here's my cover. This is really fun. Or I've got 3 cover choices. Help me choose. And you pull in your audience, your fans from social media, giving them little excerpts from the book or the tidbits on research. Like, oh my gosh, I was looking for this information. Look what I found online about this thing that I didn't even know existed. That's that 80% where social media is social versus
Hmm.
the 20% where you might be saying, here, now buy my book. Um,
Right.
what else should we talk about when we're talking about launch? Should we talk about launch week? Um,
Sure.
so you've done all these things, and I don't always have a big launch event, like in-person launch event. I did for the last 2 books, but or I should say the 2 before this last one. I used Irish Fest as my launch event because it coincided well, and Irish Fest has been good to me. It made sense to do that there. Otherwise, I think sometimes the virtual or online Zoom type launches are good too. Do you have a favorite? What's your favorite kind of launch? What do you like to
Well,
do?
my favorite kind of launch was yours, where you launched not one but 2 books, and it was a costume party at a bar. I mean,
That was
on
fun.
Halloween, that was a blast.
I always wanted to throw a Halloween party, and why not celebrate books at the
I
same time,
know.
right?
Anytime I can dress up in costume as Cher, I'm there.
That was a fun night, wasn't
Yes,
it?
that
I
was very fun. You really did a wonderful job, and it was totally enjoyable. So.
but
Yeah, I have it. I wrote down places where you can, depending on your energy level, right? If you want to
for
have it
sure.
at rent a room at the local library, if you're a day person and have patrons there that you've worked with and supported your work, have it there. You can have it at a friend's home. You can have a book shower, right? You know, I mean, think of different, me being me, I'm going to think of a different way to do something or a fresh angle. Who knows? You can have it at a wine bar, and serve champagne and cupcakes. Who knows? But there's just so many things you can do. You can have it at a bookstore. Some bookstores,
Yeah.
there's some that say, look, you can bring in your group, but you have to sell X amount of books. And then there's some who say, okay, go ahead, have it. And it's a different, they'll sell, but you don't have to have a minimum. It just depends. I just suggest know them well, invite your friends, and if you can live stream, that's great.
Mhm.
And or you can just have a Zoom event. Whatever you want to do to celebrate the work that you put in to do this.
Right. What's interesting is that I'll probably keep taking different approaches.
Yeah.
So my first book ever, I had a big party because, oh my gosh, my first book. You have to have a big party, with the cake with the cover on it, the whole thing, right? I mean, yay! And then for books 2 and 3 in that series, I did very quiet, like launches. I had a little book club thing in a adjacent month. It was mostly online, celebrating on Facebook. Hey, it's launch day. Then came the 2 books at once thing that included this one. So that was fun because it was, I always hold this one up. Okay, so this is one of my favorite copies, but it's the one I keep on my desk because it's the notes.
Yeah.
It's the notes I have for things that I need to remember for when I plot the next book, just so people know.
Oh, good for you. Thinking
That's
ahead.
like the crazy copy that I hold up. And then came this latest book, which then was this Irish Fest thing. But my next book, so will probably be book 2 in this series. Mystery to Me is our big
Yeah.
mystery bookstore in the area in southern Wisconsin. It's in Madison. I probably would approach them, especially now. I mean, I feel a responsibility if I'm going to have an event at a bookstore and it is the first one in a series that I think it's always scarier to try to bring people out if you're not very well known as an author yet. The responsibility of all the effort of the employees at the bookstore, like you want to have a good showing. Um, so I'd be much more confident to have like my book launch for book 2 at Mystery to Me. So there's fans already for book 1, and hopefully
Right.
then you can have a bigger, group. I have attended though some very fun Zoom launches
Hmm.
where the author is discussing, they're in conversation with someone else who's sort of facilitating the event. And then you open it up for questions, and people from all over then can zoom in, and you know how that is. You've made friends at these conferences. Not everybody's going to be in the local area and can make it to an
Right.
event.
And, in Wisconsin, like I've got one that'll be coming out in, December it's a February book, but you want to make sure it's, ready for people to
Yes.
read but okay, December, winter, dark, nobody's driving, I don't drive at night anymore, hardly, so then you're thinking an online event, right? Or
Yes.
something during the day. So you just have to keep that in mind as you're planning these.
And I always worry too that, oh, I'm going to jinx myself if I say this, but here I go. I believe in these things. Knock on wood. My desk is wood. That I've not had to cancel a Books and Beer for snow. But
Oh,
you start to plan events December,
yeah,
January, February. You don't know what you're going to get, and that way, then if you do a Zoom, you're safe,
right.
right? And then celebrate on the pontoon boat next summer. If you
Exactly. Exactly. You can always do that. And why not, right? Why not? If you've got a bunch of books and you've got family around or you've got friends and they're all in the same area, go, hey, look, you know what? For an hour, we're going to talk about these books and have some fun and here's some cake
Yeah,
and champagne.
exactly.
Why not? You
And
know?
here's the deal is if you, particularly if you're an indie author, you can make your entire launch very evergreen. So you
Yes.
could release it one month, but celebrate the launch in another month. And
If you have an audiobook, you go, okay, my print and ebook came out at this date, and then next is going to be the audiobook. Celebrate the audiobook release. Why not?
yeah,
You
and
know?
I'll be doing that. My audiobook for this last book won't be out until the end of the year, close to the end of the year. I will celebrate that. Away you go. And we should talk too about the economics of launches. Now, it can be expensive to have a big party. Now, I had saved up for that party because it was a dual book launch with my middle grade novel too, and I was ready to just have a great time. I spent a few $100s on that event, and I was happy to do so. I didn't have an open bar. People had to get their own drinks, but I provided all the food and I bought all kinds of like tchotchkes, right? Because I never met, here, I've got some book swag. I never met book swag I didn't like. But I bought like all kinds of fun things and to give away and whatever. You don't have to do that though. You can have something that's very low key. You can have something that's like less expensive in person, but obviously a Zoom event, you might do a couple giveaways, prizes,
Right.
but it's a very, very reasonable way to launch your book. Because let's be honest, you've already paid a book cover designer, paid your editor, probably paid an interior book formatter, right?
Right.
So you might be at the point where you're like feeling a little sticker shock,
Yeah.
for your book launch. Don't feel like you have to do things the way you've seen other people do them. Make it your own. Does it match? Does your book topic match a certain month or an event? I had somebody, do a true crime book that I was helpful with them, with publishing it. It got launched during Child Abuse Prevention Month. Unfortunately, the true crime was the abuse of a child, and it made sense to segue into that, into the prevention aspect of it, because it was a horrific crime. But there's other things too, like there's all those fun days on calendars, these weird
Yes.
celebrations, like eat ice cream day. Okay, great. Have you eaten at your lunch?
Which is every day as far as
I
I'm
know. Is
concerned.
it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. Okay. But official eat ice cream day. I don't know. I mean, so have some fun with it, or like champagne day. Okay,
Yes.
serve champagne. I don't know, but you can get creative with it, and still stay economical. But seriously, the cheapest way to do something like that is just do a digital launch,
Right. Right.
an online launch. So you think you'll do your next one will be digital, like a digital launch in December, or will you wait until
Most
February?
well, I was planning, because it's a Valentine's
Mhm.
book. It's called The Valentine Lines, right? And actually, there's a one act play associated with it.
Oh, that's so fun.
So, so in my dreams, I want to do the one act play. Have if it's just readers theater, right? Have the reading at a bookstore, and I actually have already talked to the bookstore. Can I pull it all off? I don't know, but
Can I
we'll.
have a part?
Of course, absolutely, yes.
I want to be in it. I want to be one of the readers. I'm sorry. I just think that could be so fun. That's fun.
It's it is, to me, the more fun you can have, the better. And yeah, so that in my dreams, that's what I would love to do.
Oh, I
Now,
love it.
do I have to have it in February? No, I could have it later on when the weather's better. But knowing me, I'll have the freak snowstorm.
Wait, you'll say I'm going to bypass the mid-February like launch
Yes.
for Valentine's Day, and I'm going to do it in March, and then the snow will actually happen in March.
Yes, who knows? But
I don't know.
whatever. I
Wisconsin's
just
weird that
think
way.
I would love to have some fun with it. And I already have the one act. This book, it was my thesis. It was my master's thesis. I wrote the first 80 pages. And now
Ah,
it's finally finished after how many years and revisions and effort. And in the meantime, I wrote a one act associated with this.
I love
So
that.
I've
I love
got
that you can
tons
do
of
that.
information. I've got just fun, like pure fun associated with it. The more fun you can have, and so I've got to plan it. Long story, but I've got to plan it.
All right. All right. I'm down. I'm in.
Oh, you are? Okay, cool.
In.
I will be in touch.
So I guess, really that's it. We can wrap this up for today. These are the things that we think about, like once you're at that point, what, 3 months before, maybe up to 6 months before, when you get the cover, you've got that Kindle, like, pre-sale link. All this stuff then gets set into motion
Right,
for your launch. And then what we'll talk about next time though is what happens after
right.
the day after your launch. Now what are you doing? Now what are you doing? And that's how we're going to approach this, is split it up into those two time frames. So next time we're going to talk more about advertising and some of the like other types of promos you can buy. And it's not like the things that we already talked about aren't still happening. You may have the podcasts being scheduled, at those days after. You may be getting news features or
Yes,
articles and what have you, but you've put the plan in action before the launch for those things
right.
get sprinkled in the months after. So
And before you get overwhelmed with, because this was a lot of information,
it was,
the
yeah.
series has been a lot of information. Number one, understand there's a lot of authors in the same boat that you're in.
Mm.
So, when you start getting overwhelmed and you get tired and frustrated and fed up with it all, okay, first take a nap, you know, take a break, understand other writers are in the same boat, and stay organized,
Yes.
and understand that it's not going to go smoothly. It's not going to go as perfectly as you think, but consistency, stay
Mhm.
the course. You wrote the book for a reason. You have a dream to get it out there. Stay the course and come back to center when you start feeling overwhelmed or tired or frustrated.
Very much so. And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you
Yep.
are at a decision point and you do not know what to do, ask people like us.
Right.
reach out on our socials, reach out via comment. We're happy to help and, and steer you in the right direction or just confirm you're doing exactly what you should be doing.
Right.
We all need that sort of reassurance. So, use your community to help you
Use
out.
your community. Exactly. Well said.
Yep. So this was fun.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm so glad we
So,
both had a productive summertime and
yes,
now we're all ready to jump into fall. I'm kind of ready for fall. We had cool weather
I am
and I'm just
too.
kind of ready, oh, look at these look at these cute oh, I meant to show you these. Aren't
Oh
these
my
adorable?
goodness.
They're from Aldi's.
Is it
They're little
cute?
pumpkin and apple chocolates. Oh, and they're so good.
Oh dear, chocolate. I've never met a chocolate I didn't like, so those are right up my alley. But yeah, we're headed into fall. Yeah, all the pumpkin spice is coming out, and
Pumpkin spice season.
I am, a lover of pumpkin spice. So here we go, headed into fall. I hope you all are appreciating this series. And we'll be back next time in October with more on this fun book marketing talk. It is fun. I shouldn't say it like that. It is fun.
Yes, it is. Yes.
We're just going to keep saying that over and over again. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.